Testing. Can you hear me party in the back?
Yeah.
You got
It's been a while
it?
since I've been there, yeah.
Folks with the glasses in the back with the wine and the solo cups.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Wine?
Did you start your set?
No, I'm just testing.
Oh, yeah.
Testing. Party in the back. Can you hear me in the party in the back? I'm about to start auctioning off things over here.
Oh, not that.
Now we all can't hear. That's okay. I think this is good. If not, they'll just, yeah, I think it's good. You guys can hear?
Yeah.
They can probably hear, but I think they're 2 lines in the solo cup, so we'll see. We'll party. But yeah, so I'm mostly just going to perform to you guys over here, maybe a little bit of you guys. Do a little bit of surround sound, don't really know where to look. But who here is from Seattle? Okay, so we got a fair amount. I know who to avoid when this set is done. Because, you know, I gotta talk crap about Seattle. I really do, because I'm not originally from here. But as long as I've lived here, I've actually grown to love Seattle. I really have. I hardly smile at strangers anymore. I haven't owned an umbrella since 2018. And I always refer to myself as the 12th man. Or whatever that means. It's baseball, right? Just kidding, I know it's soccer. But despite loving Seattle, there are a lot of things that I still feel very uneasy about, right? Like, have we all heard of a Seattle dog?
Oh yeah, I needed one of those.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, it's an abomination of the highest order. It's a hot dog covered in cream cheese and onions. And to that I have to say, who let the Midwesterners get into the lead? We can't let it happen again. Another thing that I also don't understand is the gum wall. Yeah. I wanted to be a fly on the wall whenever that one went down, you know what I mean? I can just imagine the owner of Pike Place himself, Mr. Pike, just ranting and raving, talking about how kids these days are so disrespectful with their gum and their shoes and their music and their TikToks. Actually, that's a conversation I had earlier this week with my parents. But I think if you go ahead and remove TikToks and replace it with MTV, it's pretty much the exact same conversation. But Mr. Pike, he's just ranting and raving at his poor, unpaid, because it's the 90s, intern Pikel. And Pikel, our boy Pikel, he's a real trooper here because, you see, he is a business major. And he's interning for free, and he has gotten gum in his mouth so many times. He probably has every letter of hepatitis. And Pikel, he starts thinking to himself, and he goes, you know, I should start pitching. So he pitches to his boss like he's never pitched before, and he goes, boss, I think if we really play up that Seattle grunge factor, we can make this gum wall a thing, and people will come from everywhere to see it. And because Mr. Pike was still high from his cocaine bender the night before, he only heard the words big and cum and agreed immediately. Yeah, so I think that's how that one went down. Because I know you all are so curious, I'm actually from Nevada, not Vegas. I know you were just about to ask me that. I'm actually from a small town that is significantly less classy than Vegas, if you can believe. It's a little small town called Elko. And who here has heard of a little thing called truck nuts?
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you who aren't perverts, truck nuts are these little silicone testes that look like you just plucked them off of a Ken doll and draped them over the trailer hitch of a truck to attract women. I don't know, I've never seen it happen. And I bring up truck nuts because Elko is known as something of a one truck nut multiple, nope, I messed that one up, folks. That's okay, we'll rewind it back. Nothing is permanent. Elko is known as a one truck stop multiple truck nut kind of town. It really is. The scrote to stop ratio on that boy is absolutely ridiculous. In fact, it is projected that within the next 4 years, the number of truck nuts will exceed Elko's entire population. This is mostly because Elko has started a modesty campaign against breastfeeding mothers. Because as any good American will tell you, the only thing that should be hanging and slinging in a non-sexual manner, truck nuts. But not to worry, mothers, being clever as per usual, have figured out that if you just kind of cover up your situation with truck nuts, people have a tendency to leave you alone. And it started with them like balancing like one on their boob and the other on the baby's forehead. But some mothers, they wanted a little bit more coverage, so they took those really ugly crocheted blankets and just started crocheting truck nuts onto them. It looks like the world's ugliest Pandora bracelet and is just as much of a choking hazard. I'm glad that 2 of you laughed at that. That means you're fine with nuts being on a baby's forehead and in their mouth. Yeah, sheesh is the correct reaction, I think. No, not a laugh. Comedians don't need those. But yeah, honestly, it is such a beautiful tradition to just see a gaggle of grandmothers just chain smoking and crocheting to their heart's delight. And you say middle America doesn't have culture. But I lived in Elko for 18 years, which is so long that by the time I could actually drive myself to school, the parking lot where I parked was actually the hospital I was born in. Yeah, you know the one they tore down a year after I was born because they finally decided it had too much asbestos in it? Yeah, just small town things. But while Elko prepared me for a life full of mesothelioma, it didn't really prepare me for dating in the big world. Are we all like single folks, married? What's the dating stitch? Okay, are we on dating apps? Okay, how do you like them?
Sucks.
You see, I have the absolute opposite reaction. Because there's nothing quite like seeing people in their most primal form, right? One time when I was scrolling through Tinder, I came across the profile of an entire prison cell block. I wasn't aware that they were allowed to do that. But like the profile was primarily for the head dude. I don't really remember what his name was, so I nicknamed him King Shiv. I felt like it was apt. And King Shiv, he reminded us that if we wanted to, we could contact him or any of his cell block buddies and maybe have a smoldering date in 5 to 10 years. Which, if you really think about it, is quite sweet because I feel like most men, they just want a conjugal visit and quit it. But yeah, no, this man, he was down to cuff it. I probably shouldn't bring up the word cuff around criminals. That feels bad. But that's okay. But he did also note why he was in prison because he's a great communicator. So, do any of you have guesses as to why he's in prison?
Fentanyl.
Okay, not quite. Not quite. What? Okay, we're getting closer, but not quite. Tone down about 2 notches. Assault, aggravated assault. I don't know if that is assault too. What is the second assault?
Electric boogaloo.
Is it like when Charlie XCX releases the exact same song with just more 808 drums? Love it. Okay, assault to extra 808 drums is why he was in prison. Which, if you think about it, kind of hot. So I'm non-binary. Don't cheer for that. It means I'm not a man or a woman, I'm just simply a nuisance at this point. It means that when men start to like me, that they think it's because I have a great rack, I sometimes look pretty, and I probably remind them a little bit of their mother. But the real reason that they like me is because I remind them of their father. I'm just constantly disappointed in them, and I only stop giving them head to tell them to turn up the World War II documentary. Yeah, they don't really like that, but I love it. But I do have a big fear that I'm turning into my father, you know? I really do. Because you see, I've started to really worry about whether or not all my friends have trucks, despite the fact I live in the city. And all my friends are gay. I feel like tomorrow I'm about to wake up and just go protest at an anti-pride thing and just be like, the only nuts I want hitting my behind are the ones on the behind of my truck. And the poster's just gonna have like a graphic of Calvin and Hobbes peeing on the pride flag, which if you think about it is just really the piss kink pride flag. I also worry that my love for astrology is just slowly becoming into his love of conspiracy theories, you know? Like, I'm about to just start believing whatever the History Channel has to say. Just accosting cashiers at Trader Joe's, like, Mercury is in retrograde because Joe Biden had leftover 5G from when he killed the dinosaurs. It's great turning into your father, it really is. I'm pansexual as well, which is a lot like my dietary preferences. There's no hard lines anywhere, but I'm trying to get less meat in. Yeah. But despite being very eager for beaver, I've yet to actually have relationships with like any queer women. But it's interesting dating men. It really is, because they don't really know how to handle the non-binary thing. So when we get a little hot and heavy in the bedroom, they never know what to call me, right? So one time when I was getting down with this dude, he said possibly the most horrifying thing I've ever heard. You're such a good free thinker. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my pussy prolapsed. And as horrifying as that was, I kind of wish he would have kept going, you know what I mean? I wanted to see what he could come up with. Like, oh baby, you give head like a maverick. I'm sure your dad is so proud of what a good citizen you are. I gotta stop dating men, folks. I really do. But despite that joke, my mother is somehow proud of me. Don't cheer for it. I think she's just proud of the fact that I'm not my brother. But it's really interesting having someone be proud of you even though you're a comedian, right? Because I feel like when you tell most people you're a comedian, the room falls silent. Like a death has just occurred. The death, of course, being my job prospects. Then eventually some little old lady gets uncomfortable having to sit alone with her demons for that long, and she starts rattling off recipes at you to make the silence go away. You think in her time she'd realize that the silence just never goes away. But yeah, no, despite that, my mother tells everybody what I'm up to, like I'm curing cancer instead of telling dick jokes all across Seattle. Yeah, in fact, I can imagine my sweet little Midwestern mother. I want you to imagine her with me, actually. She's about yay high. Unless she has tea spray gelled and molded her hair, and then she's about yay high. Due to her Italian heritage, she not only speaks very emphatically with her hands, she also speaks at the top of her lungs! I have hearing damage now. But now that we have a better picture of my mother, I want you to imagine her at her Home Depot job. She's scanning the screws, the nails, whatever the fuck that tool is. Then she comes across the lumber and she looks her customers down there and she goes, "Oh, my daughter loves making jokes about wood. They also like making dick jokes, too." The sad part is I don't have to imagine that. That is an actual conversation my mother has had with another person. She's bad with boundaries. But speaking of being bad with boundaries, my mother has recently lost a lot of weight due to a little diet I like to call divorce court. Yeah, give it up for the end of marriages. Woo. Yeah, no, and I'm really proud of her, but it's really strange dating at the same time as your mother, because she's always asking you for advice, really, and I thought it was important to highlight 3 rules for her. 1, never let a man drive you anywhere. I don't want my first IMDb credit to be a 2020 episode. Number 2, never let a man pay for you. They expect head now. The only thing more horrifying than having to tell my mother that was not having to explain to her what the word head meant. Yeah, my mother's a slut. And number 3, stay far away from the rapper Young Gravy. For those of you who do not know what Young Gravy is, he is a mumble rapper who's like if Hugh Hefner had a baby with Macklemore and a Minnesota Viking, but instead of wanting to do 18-year-olds, he wants to do your mother. And call me a prude, but I don't really want to see my mother's sex life on a tabloid. I'd rather her just tell it to me herself, you know what I mean? Like a proper child. You all have been fun. I hope you have a good rest of your night.